Hello! I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Hello, Herd, and welcome to another episode of NerdyVerse here at Nerd Herder. I'm J-Dub,
Boop.
and we are back, as said, NerdyVerse, talking about things not Star Wars that we love, which always surprises people, but there are some things.
Aha, we tricked you.
Right, so you come for the Star Wars, stay for the rest of the geekiness and
You
whatnot.
stay for the personalities?
The boop. You stay for the boop.
No. Raise your standards. Get some help.
No, you're high standards. Accept my high praise.
No.
So yeah, we are on a bit of a journey here with Nerdyverse. We are going through and preparing our hearts and minds for the lovely end of the trilogy, a question mark,
Question mark.
with the MCU Spider-Man.
Yes.
Tom Holland's outing as the Spider Boy may be coming to an end with No Way Home at the end of this month.
I genuinely
I
hope
guess
not.
it's at the end of this month.
Yes.
We're talking about it at the end of this month.
Everything I see says Christmas. So
Sure.
this Christmas, go see Spider-Man.
Yes, and leading up to that, we've been talking about. Well, we spent one episode so far talking about Spider-Man, particularly the Sam Raimi trilogy. So that was a couple weeks ago. You can check that out where we talk about Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 from the early 2000s
Yes, the
of
Raimi
yesteryear.
Spider Trilogy.
And now moving on to more controversial Spider-Man.
Yes.
Controversial in a different sense than I think we're used to.
Boy, has there been controversy lately.
Just across the fandoms.
Yep.
No one necessarily hurt anybody, I guess. This isn't
Debatable.
like or Andrew Garfield hurt me.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, like it's not bad stuff. It's just more so that these are, I guess, sort of divisive, or
Unnecessary,
at the
I'd
very
say.
least, they're just not entirely agreeable by all the Spider fans. The Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 are what we're going to talk about today. And so kind of leading into that, what were your first experiences with these movies overall, and where does it kind of sit with you now?
Well, at first I was like, "Oh my gosh, more Spider-Man. That's delightful," because I like Spider-Man. I think I've established that. Um, I I went to see both of them in the theater. I believe with you. Did I go see them with you? No, I saw the second one with you in the theater. Are you sure?
No way.
Are you sure?
I am almost certain I didn't see any of these in the theater.
Okay, so I apparently went to see Spider-Man with someone else, which I don't know
Clearly.
who, but I distinctly remember seeing Spider-Man 2 in the theater. Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I don't think I saw either of these in theater.
Yeah. I don't
And I don't
remember if I
think
saw one.
I don't think that makes a difference.
No.
And there's all these people like Villanueva with Dune and everything saying that this is a theater. If it's a film only for theater, you shouldn't have made it. Like,
Wow.
I just don't agree with this idea that it like, is it nice? Is it a different experience? Absolutely. Do I
Yeah.
want to see the original Star Wars films on big screen? Yes.
Absolutely.
Because that's an amazing experience, but not because that makes the film.
Yeah.
Where and how you watch it on your dang phone. It doesn't matter.
You're making
So
David Lynch very upset right now.
and that's fine. You know what? Him and Scorsese and Villanueva. Although I'm judging Villanueva only on his one tweet about it. So and don't in light of all of the podcast, don't take me seriously. But what I'm saying is, I don't let anybody tell you how to experience. Like, films aren't necessarily like food in that you have to experience it necessarily the right way. Like, whenever somebody
Mhm.
talks about certain foods, they're like, "Oh, well, you just didn't have it right." How in the heck else am I
Yeah.
supposed to watch a movie? With my nose? Like, there's only one way to watch a movie. It's with your eyes, and at the end of the day, yes, you can experience it one way versus another. We have long preached give things second chances, but that doesn't mean that it invalidates that the way you watched it the first time. If you watched this on TV, even it doesn't matter. A movie's a movie.
A movie is a movie. I mean, the first time you watched the Vavitch, it was laying in bed next to me. I watched it on my phone.
Yeah, a good movie is good no matter how you watch
Yeah,
it. I
agreed.
don't care what anybody says. So I don't think that would have made any difference for me for these movies to not give away too much of my opinion up front.
No,
So,
I don't think
but
that
you
would have
saw
changed your
these. You
opinion.
saw these in theater.
I know for a fact that I saw the second one in theater. I don't think I
Okay.
saw the first one now that I think of it. But I watched it, and I watched the first one, and I was like, oh, we're doing this again.
Right.
The entire story again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Sure, why not?
I remember specifically when so the first one came out in 2012. I don't remember when it was
You're
officially
right. We hadn't met yet.
correct. Um, I don't remember when it was officially announced. But I specifically remember hearing about it on the radio while I was in the McDonald's drive-through, and I remember
Ew.
being in the middle of my order. The radio's on on low in the car, and I remember it coming out, and in the middle of my order, I'm just like, "What the heck?
Spider-Man.
Why?" Um, yeah, so the last Sam Raimi movie, which we talked about the trilogy a couple weeks ago, and we talked about Spider-Man a little bit overall in that too, so you can check that out. Not only for the Raimi film opinions, although spoiler alert, they're high,
They're very high.
but also for our Spider-Man feelings in general. So the Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007.
Yeah. So
This
not
is
even 10 years later.
no 5 years.
Yeah.
This is exactly 10 years after, well, not exactly, but this is 10 years after the first Sam Raimi
Mhm.
Spider-Man movie. Like, it's it's insane to think about. Um,
Yeah.
like for reference, like the Batman movies were a solid 12 years difference before they completely like 12 years from the final Burton or not Burton the travesty one, the
Wow.
ridiculous one.
Wow.
Oh, the George Clooney one.
Yeah.
Bat, Batman and Robin?
No.
No,
Batman Forever.
Batman Forever.
I'm
That
pretty
one.
sure.
It was
Great movie.
well, no, but
Bad movie, fun to
it was
watch.
long enough for a generation to grow up.
Yeah.
And it made sense. You were making not only a next generation Batman movie, but a completely genre breaking Batman movie. Um, this, like you said, like it's Spider-Man 101
Yeah.
over again, and we just swap the villains.
Exactly. And I was so hopeful that it was going to be different when I first went to see it. Like I wanted so desperately to like these movies,
Hmm.
but then I watched them and I don't like them.
I don't remember my expectations. Like I said, when I first heard the news, and I don't know why I can so vividly remember it. I think it's just
It's
because
because of McDonald's.
I think it's because it's so ridiculous. The concept of restarting quote unquote a franchise. I mean, yeah, it was a trilogy, but they weren't really working with Big Bacon right now.
No, I
Um,
mean, and
the
Iron
MCU
Man had come
itself
out.
was yeah, well, the MCU itself was an infant at this point. Um, and it didn't even feel like this was a part of that.
No.
It didn't feel like this was a modern venture of Marvel, which it wasn't. It was still Sony, because, as is well known at this point, the reason it was rebooted was because it took them so long to settle on whether or not they wanted Spider-Man 4 that they just had to basically make a movie in
Exactly.
order to keep their rights. Um, and part of the reason they couldn't settle on Spider-Man 4 was just the overall dissatisfaction with Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's own withholdings because Spider-Man 3, um, all of these things bled into, all right, we can't make a decision over here, so we're going to start over. And they literally did.
Yeah. And not a great way, honestly.
Well, I mean, again, 60% of this movie is just origin story over
Yeah.
again.
Okay. My main beef with this movie, if I can get into it,
Sure, with the first one.
with the first
Yeah.
one, is it's too much at once for one thing. They crammed way too much backstory into it. Where I think in the Raimi trilogy, they get right to the action. You know where Spider-Man came from.
Yeah,
Like they show just enough for it to be like, oh yeah, Spider-Man, I know that.
sure.
But then they get into it. He's Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man for a while. With this movie, I feel like they linger on not just the origin, but it's not a problem for him to play Peter Parker. But it's just so much of him
It's
being Peter
it's a
Parker,
it's
if
a
that makes
lot of
sense.
foundation. It's a lot of time
Yeah,
spent on foundation.
exactly. And
Um,
Andrew Garfield is just too cool. I'm sorry.
yeah.
He's not supposed to be that cool.
So let's go ahead and talk about that, I guess.
Sorry.
And no, I mean there's no formula here. I'd prefer to kind of roll with the punches on this one.
Punch,
And
punch.
and I feel like I have to say, all right, so just up front to keep people listening so they don't think this is just a complaint fest,
No.
I would rate this a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
The first movie.
it's a fine movie.
The second one I see a little less.
Yeah.
But I think both of these movies, something they have working against them is that they were an overreaction uh, to reviews and
Yes.
opinion of the original films. And I think they were also a little bipolar or a little mixed up in their priorities because it felt like on one end you want to do a modern and actiony uh, movie that features a
Yeah.
superhero like Iron Man and Captain America and the successful MCU films. But then on the other side, it feels like you want to do a raw and dark, uh,
Yeah.
uh, almost fresh take. You want to be edgy and new
Hmm.
because again, Batman began.
Batman did begin.
Batman Begins had happened and had changed the whole idea of what a superhero comic book film can be,
Hmm.
even more so than Iron
Oh,
Man.
absolutely.
So I feel like there is a lot of things working against either of these films, and so even though I'd rate the second one probably closer to 4 out of 10, there
Hmm.
are good elements. So
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot that I like about this movie. Don't get me wrong.
hopefully that'll keep you interested in the conversation, and just take it as that it's conversation. We're not saying these movies are definitively bad.
No.
We are sharing our opinions about them.
Yeah, and we're never
Um,
gonna say a movie is
and
straight up and down bad.
and we will make sure to find positives because that's what we try to do for everything around here. And so hopefully if you like these movies, please don't be offended.
No.
We're not saying you're wrong at all. We're just saying what we think about these films.
Yeah. We just
And
have a different opinion.
yes, and in fact we'd love to hear from people that do
Yeah.
like these films what you like
Let
about
us
them.
hear your people.
So Andrew Garfield
Andrew
as
Garfield.
Peter Parker slash Spiderman. Your
Um,
thoughts?
he's okay. Sorry if anybody was super into Garfieldman.
I
Um,
did not know anything about him,
yeah.
honestly, before this.
And I think I had seen him in something before. Was this The Social Network? This was before The
He was
Social
he
Network?
was in The Social Network. I don't know when that was. I
I
don't
don't remember.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Another movie that I saw in the theaters and actually
Never
really
seen that. I
liked.
have no desire to see a movie about a man that made Facebook
I
or the
think
man that made Apple or the man that made Ferrari. I just don't care.
I think it was a fun movie.
I just don't care. Um,
Yeah.
but
I was
good
the
work,
only member of
everybody.
my family that liked that movie when we saw it in the theater.
Um, the only, literally, the only other thing I've seen him in, and what I mean is like I've watched intentfully and willfully, not I know of it, I've heard of it, blah blah blah, is an episode of Doctor Who, or like 3 episodes. The
What?
Daleks Tech Manhattan.
He's in that?
He is, and
Oh.
he actually he gets to be British, I think. No,
Yes.
he's American in that
Oh,
because they're in New York. Because that's the
beans.
whole plot point or something like that.
He looks
Um,
better than Jason Takes
Add
Manhattan.
him to the list of people. I don't know if he's British. Is he?
Henry Cavill. He was another one that I had no clue he
Yeah.
was British.
No. Well, and then okay, the travesty. Okay, I watched something with Henry Cavill recently, and I did have that initial,
Love
oh,
him.
he's British. It happens every time. Don't judge me. But and he's talking about his career in film, and obviously he talks about Superman. He talks about The Witcher, and he talks about a few other
So
projects.
talented.
He doesn't talk about Stardust.
He doesn't talk about
He
Hellraiser
he
either.
doesn't talk about Stardust. What is he in Hellraiser? What does he do?
He's in Hell. He's one of the main characters in Hell World. It took me a
Which
few tries to get that. Yeah, that's the
which one is that one?
5th one. You haven't seen it, I don't
No,
think.
I've seen all the Well, I haven't seen like the newer movies, but
Oh,
I
that's right, right,
really
right.
do not recall him
It's
in
the
that.
one where it's the video game.
No one loved him before he had the muscles. No one loved me before I put on the pounds and gains.
I loved him. I thought he
Oh
was great in
gosh,
Stardust.
nobody knows who he was before he was Superman.
Wow,
It's
that's
an
rude.
exaggeration.
His
Anyway,
mother and 5 brothers do.
apparently, he's supposed to be 17-year-old in this, by the way, and he
Okay.
was older than Tobey Maguire when he took the role.
Which he looks younger, which is nuts. I think it's to do with the hair.
I think it's also his face.
Mm.
I don't know.
He didn't have visible crow's feet.
It wasn't as bad as with the other ones. Although, don't get me wrong, I don't question Tobey Maguire in high school too much.
No.
Although I should. I should be very afraid of that.
You would be horrible at picking out the undercover cops.
Apparently. But yeah, this one more so blended very well. I don't know what to attribute that to, but I thought he was okay.
I think it's the floppy hair, honestly.
Probably. I think he did well with what he was given and everything, and obviously, again, having a Spider-Man in recent memory, it had to be quite a task to come into that fresh and new. And obviously, they wrote Peter very differently for this one.
Yeah.
I feel like he was your modern edge boy
I
in
agree.
this. You know,
I
all the
feel
hoodie wearing and
Yeah.
skateboarding and
I feel like they were trying so hard to make him a nerd, but failing
see.
desperately.
I don't even think that. I think they switched gears entirely and went like, what would be the outcast of today? And it's just like this socially awkward. I mean, he even has like almost emo elements. This is a little late to the
Almost.
emo game, but it feels like he's less ostracized because he's a nerd, but more so because he's socially awkward.
Mm-hmm.
If in this, like, there's so many little things that he does, and I think this is where it can come to good acting, where he plays that kind of like, I'm gonna tuffle with my hair, I'm gonna, sink my hands deep in my pockets, kind of
You don't understand
like
me.
he's such a awkward and aggressive teen, or he gives off that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they really did, although I don't think that's Peter Parker, I think they did
No.
well with capturing a different kind of outcast.
Yeah.
But I will say that doesn't necessarily make sense with the nerdy kid that goes on school field trips.
No.
So it's just like, wait, which is it? Do you want to be in the crowd or do you not? I don't understand.
I don't think they understood either.
Because they had to make him smart.
Yeah.
Emma Watson.
Nope. Not
Emma
Emma
Stone.
Watson.
Who's
Emma Stone.
Who's Emma Watson's Hermione?
Yes, she is.
That's right.
Emma Stone's great.
Emma Stone.
I like Emma Stone.
I think she was the better parts of these films
Yeah.
together. I think she is a much better female counter to our main character.
Mm-hmm. She's an actual character. That's great.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like they clearly, and I think that's some of the reason why the foundation stuff and taking so long in the first film to really get to the Spider-Man,
Yeah.
I think works because you do get to see that Peter Parker. So whereas in the original trilogy with Raimi, we praised like the villains, like
Mm-hmm.
he's a Spider-Man's cool,
Spider-Man is cool.
but the villains are what steal the show.
Exactly.
In this one, I almost feel like all the villains suck.
Yeah.
It's the characters around him.
Yeah.
Obviously Gwen Stacy being a huge one. But I also feel like, especially in this one, like I feel like Aunt May and Uncle Ben are really good.
Oh yeah.
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for reminding me
Doing
which Sheen
well.
it was.
Dennis Leary as Gwen's dad, I thought was
Giant
really
D-bag,
good.
but a good character.
Right. Well, I mean, he wrote a song about it.
Yeah.
I feel like, and even though Sally Field did not have a good time on these movies,
No, she did a great job.
I feel like everyone else is so much more solid than
Mhm.
Peter.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's just because they didn't quite know what they wanted to do. I don't
Oh
think they
no.
knew if they wanted the nerd again or if they wanted the emo kid.
Yeah, like I don't blame Andrew Garfield for this in the slightest. I think he did his best with what he was given. I just think that they didn't know what they were doing. Like you said, like I think it was kind of I don't know. nicely. It feels like they were arguing with themselves a lot about what this character was supposed to be.
Yeah, and you can tell that they weren't confident, I think, in building these movies. I
Hmm.
think it was clear that they were just trying to keep rights. I think it really shines through that they were just trying to check boxes and hope it worked out. Um, and although there's a lot to like, so we do get Dr. Connors in this.
Yes, a
Although we
great
did get
character.
Dr. Connor in the other films, but he was such a side character that they were, I guess, trying to build up to, um, which would have been such an interesting payoff because I feel like this is the kind of character that needs that time.
Agreed.
Because even in the comics and shows, Kirk Connors is around well before he's the Lizard.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been another Doc Ock in the
It-
other movies.
right, and so you would have the time to be like with unlike most villains, you wouldn't just be, oh no, get him, beat him,
Yeah.
he's bad and he deserves to be punished. Where the Raimi films excelled was making you feel for the characters, except for Green Goblin, I guess.
Except for the Goobler.
Um, Here, this feels very much like a Green Goblin thing of, no, we're going to make him crazy and evil from the get go.
Yeah.
We're not going to have you sympathetic at all to him. You're not really going to care when he turns into a lizard, and you're not going to really care when he dies.
Don't you hate it when a character just turns into a lizard mid movie?
Right? Um, and and that's the thing too. The CGI to create a full lizard in this was really phenomenal. Um, you could tell where they were learning and getting better at uh, deciding when to use CGI versus practical and everything. Raimi obviously tried to go very practical with a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that served his trilogy. But I'm glad in this they tried to embrace technology a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think everything from some of the Spider-Man web swinging shots to the fight scenes, to the lizard itself, so much of it works so well because it is CGI.
Yeah. And someone pointed out the character flaw with the lizard
Mm-hmm.
that I could not quite put my finger on. I almost said put my foot on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it bothered me. Not snooty enough. He does not have enough of a snoot.
Yes, he doesn't look like a lizard.
He does not look a single bit
He
like he
looks
looks like
like
Killer Croc
he looks
in
like
the
a
first
Goomba.
Suicide Squad movie. Yes, he
He
does.
looks
Oh
he
my
looks like a
gosh.
Trandoshan in the first season of The Mandalorian.
This this bad character design.
It's just it's not good.
It's not
I
good.
I don't I don't like it, and
I don't
the lizard
like it.
was always one of my favorite designs for
Yeah,
no good
because it's a
reason.
lizard in a lab coat,
Right,
and they made him
I couldn't
naked.
tell you why,
Why is
but
he naked?
I always liked the look. And I specifically always see the animated lizard. Um, yeah, I really didn't like the face. Everything else
No,
about him, I could even deal with the no clothes thing.
I
Whatever.
can't. Cause why he naked?
It's really the face that ruins it for me. Um, and I can't. I just don't know why or what the reasons they had for changing it up so drastically. But that's not the only thing they changed drastically, or well, maybe
No.
not drastically, but they also Spider-Man got a new look in this
Yes, he did. He is a wet boy.
that they quickly abandoned for the second one. Um,
I
I don't think
appreciate
it's wet. I think it's like so
it's.
slick.
Yeah, he looks like he's covered in lube the entire movie.
I just and that plus his frame is so different. Like they
He's so slender.
clearly were very generous to Toby Maguire
Yeah.
in the first ones, and he looks heroic. Like he
Yeah.
looks very sculpted, and he looks like he can throw the punches he's throwing.
Garfield looks like a noodle.
I mean, which to be fair does mean he looks like a teenager,
Yes.
but it also is just very like not threatening and mostly awkward.
Yeah, agreed.
um, and you can tell it's that Batman Begins formula of let's make it tactical, let's make it practical, let's make it
Yeah.
modern, and it's just like
Let's show him searching on Bing for slick uniforms.
yeah, and okay, bonus points for showing where the heck he gets this kind of
Yeah.
material. But I just I'm glad they changed it in the second one because it does look more like Spider-Man, not
Yeah.
like. I mean, this almost feels like one of the futuristic Spider-Man suits, like Spider-Man. Uh,
77?
no, what 70? I don't know.
2077.
2077,
I think.
Spider-Man Unlimited, whichever of the future Spider-Man you want to
Oscar
think of.
Isaacs.
This looks like that era of Spider-Man. It's just very like, how do we make it futuristic and cool? We make it sleek and pointy.
I don't like it.
It's just
I
it's
feel
weird.
I know that I'm saying that a lot, but like,
It's just hard when I mean you want to like when you have to look at him for 2 hours,
exactly.
and it's just like uh it. I
How
just
dare you make me look at
eh.
this?
Yeah, it's just awkward.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's a lot to like about the movie. Again, I like a lot of the not Spider-Man characters.
Agreed.
Um, I like everybody that's not a spider or a lizard.
Or a
Um,
goblin.
well, he's not in this one.
No, he's
Well, I
not
will.
in the
So we
next
do
one.
get a bit of Harry in this, and
Yes.
that's
We
Dane
do.
DeHaan.
Dane DeHaan. I believe
I
that's
have to.
the guy from Unlimited, right?
I don't know. I don't know what that is.
It's the movie where the guy gets his he gets his spine shattered and then taken over by
Well, I don't know.
Okay. I
I
think that's
just know that
him.
he's weird.
He is weird.
I'm sure he's a pleasant person, but
He seems
he's
fine.
not a Harry Osborn. I'm just gonna say that. Like, I don't want to get
He,
into a
he
point where it sounds like I'm talking about the person.
he plays the rich boy very well, but
See,
not quite
I
Harry
didn't
Osborn.
really like any of it. It just all felt a little weird. Um, I don't know how to explain it. It's just one of those things where it's just like you probably shouldn't have been this character.
Yeah, no.
You probably got this role because they liked you for Goblin more than they liked you for Harry, if that makes sense. It just feels like with the main characters that you want to get right, other than Gwen Stacy,
Mhm.
it wasn't right.
I agree. I feel like, he just he's a he's not a bit much, but he's also not enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to line up. I think that it's funny how they were trying to separate themselves so much from Sam Raimi, and yet clearly were making decisions based on either stealing, not stealing because I guess it's their IP, but like for like modifying or
Mhm.
completely countering things that had been done with Sam Raimi's.
Yeah.
Like it was elements where they were just like, no, he was too nerdy in the last one. Let's go edgy. Uh oh no, the Harry was too friendly. Let's just instantly go with no, he's kind of problematic. Like it just feels like such an anti Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With not like there's ill intent towards the Raimi trilogy, but just more like we want to distance ourselves so much from this trilogy that we're just going to completely 180 some choices. And I think some of the main casting was that. But yeah, has one of the coolest sequences, I'll say. The school fight. I know that's talked about a lot, but for good reason.
Yeah.
I think it's very good, and again, with so much CGI going on in 2012, I think it's a lot to be praised for.
Mhm.
Um, and as far as some of the action goes, it's some of the better because it's just Spider-Man fighting a villain.
Yeah, I mean, it's well choreographed action sequences, and I don't know, I feel like some of it could have been done more practically, but I don't
I mean, I
I'm not
don't.
saying I'm not poo-pooing the VFX in the slightest.
Well, I don't. I wouldn't have had a lot of confidence in them doing it practically with
True.
with the lizard with something quite like that. But the leap from Sandman CGI to this
Yeah.
is quite phenomenal.
It really is. I mean, it looks great. Like
Yeah.
it's very smooth, very cleanly done, but why'd they make him so wet?
I
Why is he
again,
so slick?
I think it's just a look they really wanted to go for. It feels like more of something out of a video game
Yeah,
than a movie.
exactly.
And overall, and I think they carried some of the problem. Like whereas the first one I think was able to land a decent movie that I don't often choose to watch.
Mhm.
I feel like they took all of the things that didn't play out well in the first one and just repeated it for the second one.
Agreed.
Um, in this one, so the first one is obviously Spider-Man getting his powers again and
Uncle Ben is shot.
dealing with the lizard,
Hmm.
trying to turn people into lizards. Which was that always his thing?
I
Was
don't
like
know.
that always his evil plan?
I don't think so.
Because
I'm not sure.
I feel like he was just doing crime. I don't feel like he had any intent on making lizard people.
I'm the crown lizard.
It's
He
just
wasn't a Trandoshan.
it's a little odd. Anyway, so he stops that. Um, that's pretty much the movie.
Yeah.
And then the follow up is clearly a Spider-Man a little more confident in himself, obviously more confident in his attire because he actually looks like Spider-Man a little bit more
Yeah.
here. Um, with the main plot, well, if you can find the main plot.
If you can find it in all of that, yes.
So he's trying to find out more about his parents. He's trying to stop his friend from stealing his blood. He's trying to figure out how to be with his loved one. He's also trying to figure out dealing with an overly fanatical person that gains superpowers. And also,
Gwen's
there's
going
a
to college.
rhino.
Gwen's going to college. Don't forget about that.
Yes. Well, that's wrapped into the I'm trying to figure out how to be with the love of my life thing. Yeah,
It's a lot of movie.
and there was more
And
that
there-
was cut out.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get Mary Jane. We were supposed to get more of his parents. We were supposed to get other villains. Apparently,
I just don't think it would have worked, and it barely works in this movie.
It's just so odd. I think if they had, and there is a reason, which they had to pull a lizard.
Yes.
Right, for No Way Home. We know Lizard's going to be there. They had to pull one because there's only one that has appeared on screen.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But there's a reason that they bring in Electro.
Yeah,
There's
because Electro is cool.
There's a reason, like he's probably the better part of this movie that they
the better part of these two movies
that they didn't feel confident in. Well, he was only in this one.
I know. I'm counting.
You're counting it against him that he wasn't in the first one.
Yes.
It's a fine movie. Just one note. Not enough Jamie Foxx.
Can we get some more Jamie Foxx in here? I want to blame it on the goose.
I
personally,
they really just didn't even feel good about arguably their main villain.
Yeah.
In this,
which he had the potential to be the main villain if they had focused on one plot point.
If you watch the trailers, for the
He was
most
supposed
part,
to
they
be.
set him up as they're constantly showing him.
Mhm.
It's Spider-Man versus him. It's Spider-Man escaping lightning. And then eventually they start working in, oh, there might be a goblin in this one.
Mm.
But overall, they're showing you that this is the villain, and yet they don't do enough with him.
Agreed.
I don't know why they held back on this character and whatnot, but all I know is by the time you actually have Spider-Man facing off against Electro in the end, it just doesn't feel like it's as weighty and has as much emotional gravity as it should. It just feels like you're rushing through this to get to the Goblin.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're trying to get to the thing you think is going to be the most interesting thing, and it turns out to be the worst thing you did for this film.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I didn't like the Goblin.
I know. I did not like the Goblin either. I think he looked like a little horrible, crappy gremlin, and it just wasn't. It didn't work. I don't think the design was good. They made him a mutant. They gave him magic blood. Like it's just so weird.
They gave Spider-Man magic blood.
That's right. They gave Spider-Man magic blood.
Something
they gave
about
him something else.
Was supposed to be able to heal the Goblin gene
Which is the
this boy.
Dumbest thing I have ever heard.
Okay, y'all argued about the dang Power Ranger suit Goblin, all right? And then this is what you get.
Exactly.
This is what you get.
This is what you deserve.
This is what happens when you poke the beast.
Yeah.
You get Goblin boys.
Have you seen the design for the Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark Green Goblin?
No.
I will show it to you later.
Okay.
Because it is bad.
Everybody else go look it up on your own.
Please. And then come back and watch this episode and scream with me.
Apparently. Yeah, it's almost in the vein of, all right, but here's the thing. In Spider-Verse, the Goblin, quote unquote, shows up for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough for me to care, and it's clearly just an obstacle.
Yeah, exactly.
But here, when you're trying to make it a major plot point that, oh, I'm mutating and I need Spider-Man's blood, and he says no, and so, I had to do it to him. Uh,
I had to.
I just, it's an interesting choice. Again,
So
I
it's
would have
fun.
much preferred they stuck to Electro as the lead.
I agree.
I think I'm glad that he is what they're bringing primarily over from
Hmm.
these films, and the
And the
lizard's
new
there too.
design looks so good.
Yeah,
I am so
be
excited.
confident, all right? If Marvel has taught you anything, be confident in classic appearances. There's a way to take classic
Yeah.
characters and make them look
Okay.
good in modern film.
Here's the thing: the original design of Electro is stupid.
Right,
He's wearing a mask in the
right.
shape of lightning bolts.
Most comic book villains in origin suck
Look
in design.
stupid.
It's
It's
just
like how they updated Polka Dot Man's
no wonder
costume.
they're so frustrated,
It
and no
looks so
wonder
shitty.
they're doing crime.
Exactly.
But and
It,
Suicide Squad's a great example too, though, where they lean into no, this is what they look like,
yeah.
but let's make it make sense. And that's the biggest thing is like let's not just change it for the sake of changing it. Let's make it make sense.
Mm-hmm. Let's
And-
make King Shark baby.
Right. And so I'm glad that I'm glad Jamie Foxx is getting a second round at a
Yeah.
character he's very good at. Um, I was really glad that he got the chance for this.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the people that kind of passed through these two films, he's the one I'm glad got the experience, had a good time, hopefully, and gets to do it again
Mm-hmm.
and more fun. Um, I don't know why I'm attached to Jamie Foxx in this, but I just think he's a better part of this
Oh,
for sure.
blame it on the goose.
And while the film doesn't set him up to be a good villain, not on the scale of the Raimi movies, I still think that his character is better built than their own main lead, Peter Parker, in
Mm-hmm.
these films. Um, again, just feels like they were wrestling with what to do with these people uh, when they have so many options and resources at hand
Yeah.
for, all right, how do we change up? How do we do a different Peter Parker even? How do we skip past the origin? Whatever. They had options that I feel like they'd rather come up with something new, and I feel like they had 10 people trying to come up with something new at the same time.
Yeah. It's the Gremlins 2 conundrum of everyone is correct. We'll do
What's wrong with
everyone's idea.
Gremlins 2?
There's nothing wrong with Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2 does it better. But
What
there
does
are a lot
Gremlins
of
2
ideas.
do?
There's a lot of ideas.
And they all work. Literally all of them.
You're very you're biased when it comes to
About
Gremlins
a
2.
good movie?
It's a great
Yes,
movie.
it
I'm not
is.
saying it's not a good movie. I'm saying there's a lot going on.
There is. There's a way to have a lot going on and do it right. And then there's a way to have too much going on that you can't get any of it right. And
Yes.
I feel that is the epitome of this film in particular.
I'm sorry I brought up Gremlins 2.
I'm
in
just
a
saying,
negative
don't talk
manner.
about Gremlins 2. They're
I'm-
masterpieces.
They are great movies.
They're
you know?
amazing.
You know what, babe? They're good movies.
They are good movies. Paul Giamatti, though.
I think he's funny.
I hope he had fun.
I hope he had a great time. Honestly,
Um,
I think he did. I like the idea that it's a suit of armor, not necessarily a
He
man
looks
in a
way
rubber
too
suit.
stupid to know how to work
He
that thing,
does.
though.
He's very
I just like I don't think he has the level of understanding to work a giant mechanical rhino suit. Also, why a giant mechanical rhino?
because he's the rhino.
No, but he stole it. Someone else made this thing. Like that's something that's not clear in the movie, but he stole this suit from the archive that we
Yes.
see shown later with like the vulture suit and the Doc Ock limbs. He stole this from someone who thought this world needs a giant mechanical rhino.
Agreed. This world does need a giant mechanical
I
rhino.
want to meet this man. I
I
want to
wanna-
know what's wrong with him.
I want to know if he's okay.
Why rhinos? It's so ridiculous.
Very powerful.
That's the more of that. More even as ridiculous as that is, that in 5 minutes was some more quality Spider-Man-ness than what we got throughout the two films, I think.
hmm
I feel like so much of these two films is filled with almost Spider-Man, watered down Spider-Man, Spider-Man adjacent. And it feels like very few times do we really hit the nail on the head of, oh, yes, this is Spider-Man.
Yes, big time.
And I think more than anything, these films are just frustrating.
I agree. It's like they just read the Wikipedia page.
They could have been so good. There was a way to take what Raimi did and improve. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that those were perfect films. There was a way to
Mhm.
take these to a higher level, and there's a reason that I'm so glad these did not connect with the MCU.
Agreed.
Um,
I love what's coming so much.
they're doing such a better job now, and these movies were just too messy. Even for any good in them, they were just too
Mhm.
messy. Um,
And they were very slapdash, where it was just like, uh, you know, like Spider-Man in some spots, where they were just like nudging the audience, being like, like
yeah,
Spider-Man.
it's just I don't know. I just feel like there was so much going on behind the scenes. There was no way these movies were going to be good.
No.
And I feel like the reason they are the way they are is just because and I'm glad that Sony and Marvel are working together now, I guess, or
Mm,
whatever. And
whatever.
Sony's sort of doing okay. I mean, they've gotten, I guess, successful Venom movies.
Right.
They're
I
trying Morbius
need to watch
soon.
those.
I still don't have a lot of confidence in Sony's ability to do films like this, but clearly they're getting it right with Tom Holland in the MCU.
Yes, they are.
And I know that that's going to frustrate a lot of people because I know some people do really like these movies, um, but I don't know, they just don't do it for me.
I agree. I think, especially rewatching them after, watching the home trilogy, I'll call them.
hmm
Um, or the
The
first two movies,
Almost
the
trilogy.
almost home trilogy. He's asleep in the backseat.
hmm
Um, like I don't know. I see how it could have been done so much better, and it made me like it less, honestly.
I think that's something too. Is I guess if you didn't like the Raimi films, these were an improvement. But
It, yeah,
um, I think what we're getting now is some of the most pure Spider-Man.
I agree.
I think we're getting some of the best versions of a lot of
We
heroes.
got hot Aunt May.
And I don't think that that's just a reason to say that all of the MCU films are perfect, but I think it's clearly uh, better quality than
Hmm.
we've gotten from superhero, comic book, or film in general. Um, However you choose to classify these, I think the MCU is full of good movies.
Hmm.
Um,
Agreed.
and so, whereas some people may like these don't do it for us. Uh, so we were very grateful when Spider-Man got another chance in the MCU, and we'll be talking about MCU Spider-Man, which obviously we've teased that we have a lot of praise for. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, again, don't take it like we're saying anything you believe about these films
No,
is wrong or that you're wrong for liking them. These are just our opinions, and that's it.
tell us what you love about him. Maybe
Maybe it'll
we'll give
change our
him another
minds.
try.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely. We don't enjoy not liking
No.
things, and especially a superhero as great and fun as Spider-Man. It sucks to have things where it just doesn't feel like you just can't get there with it. And so who knows? Maybe something you like about it will help us see it in a new light for sure.
Exactly.
So if anything, take the challenge to convince us to like these
Take
movies.
the Spider-Man challenge, kids.
Right,
Jump off a
jump off a
building.
building.
And
um,
that's why we're a
but
dyad.
don't. But don't. This is for legal purposes that we did
Don't know.
not give consent or advice for young impressionable people to jump off buildings.
Please don't.
But you should check out the description where we've got links to all the important things, including our social medias and all that good stuff. Thank you to our patrons who support this madness. Um, Keep a lookout for our next episode in a couple of weeks where we talk about the MCU Spider-Man films after we have seen the trilogy come to an end, quote, maybe unquote.
We'll see.
Um, we don't know. Is this the end of Tom Holland? Are we okay with it?
Gosh, I hope not.
Yeah, I don't think so,
No.
but who knows? All I know is we're going to talk about it, whatever happens in No Way Home, as well as its two predecessors here soon.
Good
So
word.
make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting this to be able to get that. And with that, we'll wrap up the year and beyond into 2022 for another year of adventuring in podcasting. But thank you for listening, and yeah, as always,
Bye.
bye. I don't know. I didn't
Keep
really
on
have. I didn't really have a.
Spider-Man-ing.
Keep on swinging.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.